Great. Well, thank you. I'll echo what Kalen said. Certainly appreciate it. Been a good 2-year stretch here, and excited to see progress moving forward. Yeah, and just a big thank you to everybody. No major updates on my end aside from what Kalen said. I think exciting. We'll see. I think the mayor's going to have. Let's see if we get into that. Now, Kalen, do you want to mind walking through kind of process for going forward for what the committee makeup will be, and that information that can be just another note, some what things will look like?
I can do that. So there's a few things. So I think most folks on the committee conveyed that they'd like to continue their terms. I think we only have 2 folks that will be looking for new representation. The mayor will also be appointing a new chairman. This committee won't vote on the chairman, but we will say this: if there's somebody interested, please let us know, and we will relay that to the mayor if you are interested in becoming the chair for the next, at minimum, a year. We also are going to be just tweaks, updating the ordinance that oversees the committee, because we're no longer actually in a study phase. We're not anymore in the 3x3. So we're gonna, I know we've been calling ourselves a 3x3 for a long time, so it'll take a little bit of time to get over not calling this a 3x3 process, but we are no longer with that chief's report signed. We are no longer in the feasibility study. So we are moving towards that PED, the pre-construction engineering and design phase. And Dale is going to talk about where we're at with that and moving to that. So the ordinance is really just going to be updated to reflect where we're at with the project. And we'll share that as we get it back from legal and before it goes to city council and all as well. So that's really it. Once we have that new ordinance, then we'll look to get the committee reset in place over the next time. And I think we'll be looking at changing just to reflect the status of the project, how we meet, and whether that needs to be monthly, quarterly, until it's subject to the chair or something along those lines. But you'll see all that, and I'll send out the notes and the ordinance kind of edits as well. So that's where we're at with the committee structure and process as we're moving forward with the project. Happy to answer any questions about that. We can save it towards the end because I know we got some updates from Dale and Jordy, so I know we want to move forward with that. Is that okay for an update, Mr. Chair?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you very much. No, appreciate that. And with that, and again, with time in mind, we'll hand it over to Dale to talk about the 3x3 study going forward, the city water plan, Rosemont resilience plan, sea level rise strategy. So thank you very much, Dale, and over to you.
Yeah, great. Thanks. So just to make a segue from what Haygood and Kaylin just said. So the ordinance references in a lot of places the 3x3 and the feasibility and all those things. And in essence, those things are done because in fact, the feasibility phase is completed. It is no longer a study. It was not quite a 3x3x3. That's a federal 3 years, 3 levels review, $3 million. We actually had a 4x4x3. So about $4 million. Remember, the city didn't spend 1 penny on that except for staff time. $4 million, 4 years because of the EIS that was needed, and then the 3 levels of review. So we have to tidy up the ordinance language to reflect that we're in the next phase, and we just have to think of a peninsula perimeter protection, some sort of thing we can reference so the committee has a focus in the ordinance language. So everything will be fine, but just keep in mind that we're working with legal to get that updated. But we don't anticipate any jurisdiction or topical changes, just trying to make sure that the ordinance reflects where we are with the process. So as noted, feasibility phase was formally completed at the end of December when the Congress passed the 2022 Water Resources Development Act bill, and the president signed it, authorizing the project to go forward into the next phase. The next phase is pre-construction engineering and design and construction, but you can't get to construction until you have a completed PED phase, pre-construction engineering and design. So that is the next phase. Again, the Sign Chiefs report is available. It just summarizes what was going on. Again, the project is authorized, and Congress also provided to the Army Corps of Engineers $13 million in an appropriation to start phase 1 of PED. So where that leaves us now is before we can start PED, the city, non-federal sponsor, and the Army Corps of Engineers need to negotiate a design agreement. The Army Corps has a standard template design agreement that they use, but which can be amended, and in our case will be amended to make sure that we have some or strong input on design, and trying to frame these terms. Do we have design input, design management, or design control? These are things that are all possible within existing federal policy. Each of those has levels of opportunity and levels of liability we have to work through very carefully. And just to explain that, what that means is, if we just say we want design input, we would want to make sure that the Army Corps of Engineers has to listen to what we say, besides us threatening to walk away from the project, right? We always have that leverage. We're not going to fund the next year. They can't go forward with us. So that's always the sort of stick that we have no matter what. But we want to have a collaborative, cooperative relationship with them. So, what does input mean, and what can we contribute? That would be the sort of the lowest level of engagement. On the other hand, the highest level of engagement or design control is we follow something called a 1043B process, federal policy, which would give us total control over everything. And we would do everything, and the Army Corps would check the math to make sure it was technically and policy compliant. That sounds wonderful. The challenge for that is we would have to do everything that the Army Corps does in this process, which would probably have to staff up 10 or 15 folks on city staff to do this, right? So we're determining right now exactly what level of input, control, or management that we want, and how do we do that. As just as an update, yesterday, Kaylin and I've had various conversations with Army Corps staff over the last couple of months about this, as well as with other folks external to the project who know a bit about input, management, and control of PED. We had a very good meeting yesterday with the Army Corps staff here. Kaylin and I did, about how we proceed with this design agreement negotiation. Very favorable or positive discussions. The Army Corps district staff understand completely why we would want to have input or control or management over the design. Again, there are some technical components to the study that we really don't have to do, sort of the geotech, the subsurface, some of the foundational work that would underpin the design of a structure. So we are now discussing with the Corps exactly what that looks like. And we are also waiting for some outside advice that I have solicited to give us a better sense of the opportunities and the liabilities with each of these. So that's underway. There's really nothing to report. It's just going to take some time to do this. We also want to make sure that there is stormwater integration with this process. So in the design process, we integrate our stormwater management infrastructure, maybe get some betterments to improve that infrastructure, with the feds paying 65% of it. So those are things we're also going to try to work through in the design agreement. It's going to take some time. So that's good. Further on, some other cities that are in this process with the Army Corps Engineers are curious at how Charleston is doing this and why it seems like we're having some success with the Army Corps. In fact, the district here, and I was invited to go to St. Augustine, Florida, where they are kicking off a 3x3x3 feasibility study for coastal storm risk management. And we had a large role in that meeting, and this was primarily with Army Corps staff and St. Augustine staff, about how you do this. So we have accidentally stumbled onto something that other people were watching. So that's really good. And I think the committee has some, the committee has some role in this. One of the things that Caitlin and I learned yesterday, and it was a slap to the forehead when we heard this, is one of the things that we did in feasibility that's part of the final report is there's an MOU on aesthetics for the project. So there's a memorandum of understanding between the city and the Corps on things we have to do for aesthetics. So this is the first of its kind MOU that the Corps has ever done. And it is, as they called it, it is cutting edge and innovative. So we didn't know that this was the first of a kind. We had assumed that it happened before, but it is indicative that we have a sensitive project that needs something more than just base engineering, and the Corps of Engineers is trying to accommodate us. So that was good. And then one thing I want to do now, is Jordy on the phone? Jordy, are you there? Yes, you're under the Ports Authority. Good.
I'm sorry, I don't have a camera this morning. I hate that. But I'm having some technical difficulties, but I'm here.
Good, great. So the Union Pier redevelopment, of course, is in the alignment, or Union Pier, or the Army Corps surge structure is in the alignment, or the alignment of the Army Corps surge structure is on Union Pier property. Dan and his crew and Jordy and the folks that they've hired to help them work through preparing that PUD, they have taken into account surge protection and tidal management as well as stormwater management in their preparations. It's been a very open and transparent relationship between me and the engineering firms that they hired to do this. So that's very good. But I thought Jordy should just update you all regarding the surge protection and tidal protection that they have developed, so you all are aware of that. One thing that we would have to do is just to make sure that in PED, in phase 3, which is the east side, we would make sure the tie-in between what Lowe and Union Pier are doing works well with what the Corps of Engineers and the city would do for the surge structure. So Jordy, I'll turn it over to you, and Caitlin's going to share the screen.
Thank you, Dale. And hey, good morning to everyone. It's good to see everybody, and it's been a while since we've been together. So yeah, Dale asked me to just give a brief overview on the Union Pier project specific to the water impacts. And so some of you, I think, maybe came to the Planning Commission's workshop on resiliency, which was held, I think that was just last week. Dan, help me. The weeks are running together these days. But briefly, you all know the Sherwood team. They've presented to this committee before. They have studied Charleston prior to coming on to study the Union Pier project for us. And they looked at everything, all things water as it relates to this site. And Kevin, if you can go to the next slide. Yeah, don't. Maybe there we go. And so really looking at it, as we've discussed, in a comprehensive, strategic way for managing water. They looked at the protection barrier that we all are talking about so intently. Sunny day flooding, of course, is addressed, overall stormwater management, and using some green infrastructure aspects to it. And then the next slide, I know what you all want to really see is how it all connects. One piece of this, of course, and I'm not the expert here, so if we need to get Jim Renlund back to go through this with you all in more detail, I'm happy to do that. But basically, it raises the site, if you go to the next slide, Kaylin, to where the center of the site is 15 feet above the flood zone. So not 15 feet higher than what it is, but above the flood zone. It uses the existing piers with baffles and things of that nature to break down the storm surge, so to speak, to then protect the property during a storm. And then the next one, I'll show you where it connects. Okay, so we all discussed at length the alignment on the port property for the Army Corps plan. And so this plan, that dark line there on the water side, is where it connects on the north end and the south end, along with the alignment with the Corps. So as Dale said, we've been in constant contact with him at the city in regards to this. Of course, if there were any changes to the Corps' alignment on the north end, okay, there's still some discussions there. We could adjust there, but we have tied it in basically to tap into where the Corps' future planned wall would go. And if Dan wants to chime in on any of this, please feel free. Also, if anyone wants the full presentation on this project, the Jordy and Jacob show has been making the rounds around the city, and we're happy to come to your group and speak to you directly and go through the proposal in more detail. But this is just a snapshot of specifically the resilience and the stormwater perimeter protection, excuse me, I can't talk this morning, the perimeter protection plan that we have in place for the project.
I think you covered it, Jordy. That was good.
Great. Well, thank you, Jordy, and thank you, Dan, for doing that. And again, yeah, Jim Remelin is a gentleman from Sherwood that I've known for quite some time, and I think they've done really good work here. So that's good. Just as a technical matter, Jordy said 15 feet. That's 15 feet mean low water, which is approximately 12-foot NAVD 88, which is the height of the core structure. So there is, we always get mixed up between land datums and water datums, but that's what that is. So
thank you. Yeah, that's that I'm not the expert in the area, but you are. Thank you.
It's good. So that's the update on the 3x3 or the Charleston Peninsula study. It's no longer the 3x3. Anyway, any questions about what I presented or where we are and what we're trying to accomplish? Okay, good. All right. Well, great. Regarding the water plan, the city, as you know, you all recommended at the end of 2021 that the city should do a comprehensive water plan to understand what a water plan team may think is needed on the peninsula and elsewhere. So that process, as you know, is underway. They briefed you at the start of the process probably last September or October. But, you know, 40% of the way done with the work, data collection and sort of synthesis of all the other plans, that's mostly complete. Some of that will still occur as we go forward, but most of that is underway. We had a set of workshops during the week of March 6th. Some of y'all were there, and we appreciate that. This was looking at sort of the region, citywide, so not just the city, but the region as a focal area, and then citywide, and then looking at the peninsula, and then looking at Rosemont. So this is this sort of staggered effect of how we nest within this larger body of water and landform. So that's really good. Susan and Hobart, again, were there. And the goal there was, starting with Rosemont, was to try to understand what would the water plan recommend for a community like Rosemont, because there are other communities like Rosemont in other parts of the city. So we looked at this as Rosemont is prototypical. That'll eventually tee up some of the work for the Rosemont Resilience Plan, and I'll talk about that in a second. We will have off-peninsula workshops all next week. So we are going to spend Monday looking at Inner West Ashley, Tuesday looking at James Island, Wednesday looking at Johns Island, Thursday looking at Outer West Ashley, and Friday looking at Cainhoy and Daniel Island. The water plan team and other key stakeholders have been invited to locations, meeting locations, on those areas, in those places, and we will work with those stakeholders, show them what we're doing, try to tee up some questions with them, and then pick up some good information from them of how they see the problems and the challenges and the evolution thereof and what they would like to see. So that's next week. And then I would say probably in early to mid-May, the water plan team will have digested or ingested all the information they have collected, and then have a meeting with the city, and we can arrange one with this committee at the appropriate time to show you where they are, what they're considering, conclusions, sort of discuss potential pilots that they've sort of come up with, and directions regarding the defend, protect, reserve, adapt, and grow process that was formulated in the land and water analysis, as well as in the city comprehensive plan. So any questions about the water plan? They're doing good work. And actually we installed, sorry for the noise, my dog is banging his toy. We installed 3 groundwater monitoring wells on the peninsula, one at Colonial Lake, one in Cannon Park, and one right next to City Hall on high ground. And those monitoring wells are collecting data as we speak, and we'll have good seasonal data from that, which is the start of something we need to do. And we're actually, through the workshops a couple of weeks ago, we're going to try to put together a program, a groundwater monitoring program with the College of Charleston, so the students can do the work and learn how to do the work, and we will have the data. So that's something that's pretty important for us. Yes. Okay.
Sorry to ask questions a second ago. I know with the new city design staff, what changes does that look like going forward? I know there's been different concepts or thoughts probably thrown around. I'm guessing with the new design staff, that usually ends up being the case. What does that look like for this project, for the perimeter wall, as well as for the water plan going forward?
Are you referencing the 300-page document that the design staff put together over the course of the 3x3?
Yes.
Yes. So that's a great starting point. The Corps of Engineers have already referenced it. Actually, in our meeting yesterday, the planner, landscape architect at the Corps of Engineers referenced it all to the rest of they call it a project delivery team. It's a number of expertises, staff representing various components of the Army Corps district here. They referenced that. It's like, we need to start here. So that's really good. I think that'll inform whatever design we start with. Keep in mind that we, in fact, I think the city would want to hire a team or pay a team that works for us within the Corps of Engineers process. That is possible. There are ways, as I said, there are ways of doing that. They would work for us, and then the Army Corps would check their work. So we would have really good design input from them, and they would be responsible to the city, not to the Army Corps. But that can be credited to the project through what's called in-kind contributions and things like that. So the design staff report that you all have seen, there's a lot of really good information there. And in fact, Morgan Gunlock, who is now the head of the design center, she will be part of this work too. And in fact, because design work will take a large portion of her time, it is possible that she can hire someone, or the city can hire someone to support her, and all of that gets billed to the project. So the going forward in the design phase, things that the city does, that I do or Kaylin will do, directly related to the delivery of this project or delivery of the design phase, is billable to the project. So it's not like we're shorting something else. We can build a project. So that's really good. And the design team will have a large role in that. A lengthy answer. I hope that helps. Okay, good.
Yeah, that does. Thank you.
Good. Okay, so on Rosemont resilience, just a quick update. So as mentioned, the water plan team had a meeting with the community, a day-long meeting with the community on March 9th. The team went out there, walked around a couple times, talked to residents. We invited residents into the community center, interviewed them, collected information from them. And then in the evening, we had a public meeting. I think that was good. I will say that I was a bit disappointed in the turnout. We did our best to get turnout. Herbert also did some legwork for us to increase turnout. We had the afternoon as well as the evening, and we understand people work, but turnout was suboptimal in my opinion. So that's on us to do better the next time, and we'll have to. The Rosemont Resilience Plan formal process has not yet started because, as you know, LAMC, Low Country Alliance for Model Communities, applied for and was awarded grant money to contribute to a resilience plan for Rosemont, and they are waiting for the check, so to speak, from the grantee or the grantor to start the work. So once they get the money, we can formally start the Rosemont resilience plan work. Any questions about that? Herbert, do you have anything to add there? You're still on mute.
Excuse me, I was mute. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I think you covered it well. We in Rosemont appreciate the fact that the water plan committee came out and spent the day seeking information, concerns, information about from the residents as to what their thoughts were. And I think the water plan committee did a great job as far as answering all those questions and giving more information that wasn't asked. What we're looking for now is the, I don't want to say final product as to what they come up with and how that will tie into the resiliency plan. Yeah.
Right.
So they, the people that I talked with, who talked with me, said that they were greatly appreciative of the committee coming out and spending the day with them, showing that there is a sense of concern coming from the city side as to the well-being of the residents. So we appreciate that. Thank you for that.
Thanks, Herbert. So that's moving forward. Again, we really, to get into the nitty-gritty hard work of the resilience plan, we need or LAMC needs the NIFWF money, because that's going to make possible a number of other sets of expertise to come in and inform us. So it'll start, we hope, this summer. NIFWF, again, the grantor takes some time to write the check. So such is life. And just two updates, things that I'm delighted with before I talk about the sea level rise strategy. The Dutch Dialogues team said directionally that, we need to be very careful with use of fill in low-lying areas. City Council had tried to address fill in low-lying areas in the past unsuccessfully. There are reasons for that. And so last year, city planning, city stormwater, and the resilience office got together, and we worked with the home builders, the realtors, Historic Charleston Foundation, Coast Conservation League, Southern Environmental Law Center, and I feel like I'm forgetting someone. Anyway, we got together, and through a series of meetings and consensus building, we came up with a recommendation to manage fill in the low-lying areas, and we get at that through the foundation types that are possible within the 100-year floodplain, and FEMA has an existing process for approved types of foundations. So we're working through that. City Council on first reading adopted or approved that language last night. So maybe in 2 weeks, we will have a formal prohibition on the use of fill for new residential construction in the floodplain. Fill is still needed in some areas because the roads have to be a certain level for public safety, ambulance, fire, police access, but that'll be permissible, but fill will not be able to be used to elevate homes to get to the design flood elevation. So it's a pretty important step. So delighted with that. And then there's a project on Johns Island that was just awarded State Office of Resilience funding, the Barbary Woods project, which is a more nature-based approach to flood risk management in this low-lying area. When the Office of Resilience called us a couple weeks ago and said they had approved our grant, they indicated it was the highest scoring project they had reviewed in this cycle. So it's a nice little continuing effort of how we're trying to adapt some of our areas using heavy infrastructure and gray infrastructure and pipes and pumps in some places, as well as using natural approaches and adaptation approaches in other parts. So it's a good integration, and we're delighted with that. And then finally, the sea level rise strategy, I've been threatening to share this with you, so I'm going to share my screen here. Tell me if y'all can see my screen. Thumbs up.
Yeah, I can see it.
Got it. Okay, good. Great. Thanks. So This is the flooding and sea level rise strategy. It is still in draft form. That is because the Resilience Sustainability Advisory Committee from the city has been asked to review it and provide comments, as well as City Council has been given the draft form and also asked to make comments or ask questions about what we did. Once those comments are ingested and made, this will be the formal document, and we will present it to council hopefully in a couple of weeks. But one of the things you all noticed, and Susan was very adamant about this, is the city needs to communicate better about all the things it's doing regarding flood risk. And that wasn't just from Susan. A lot of people, I heard that when I started, a lot of people said, we don't know what the city's doing. What is it doing? Where can I find more? And we had the flooding and sea level rise strategy. It was first issued in 2015, updated in 2019, and we decided to update it to because it needed to be updated because a lot had been done and accomplished, but also to serve as a single spot where citizens or stakeholders can go to find out what the city was doing. So this is it. This is it here. Again, Susan has been very helpful in providing some good journalistic overview and editing for us, and I very much appreciate that. Other members of the Resilience Committee, Sustainable Advisory Committee, they've also been helpful, giving some suggestions. This is a document that can be updated on the fly. So it's online only. It's in a storyboard format. I'll show you this. And it is not fully exhaustive, but it is pretty long. And there's a lot here to read if you're bored at night and you have nothing better to do. So for those of you who aren't familiar with the storyboard format, that's this first sort of storyboard tells you how to do that. It takes a little while, but it is rich in graphics, you'll see, and it takes a while to populate, but there are different things you can do, in the storyboard. We have our executive summary. You see the navigation up top. It sort of says what we're doing, some of the goals that exist from the original summary, the strategic plan. This flooding and sea level rise and flooding introduction, this here, there is a collection of a bunch of existing federal, state, local, city information on our flooding and sea level rise challenge. City GIS department and city planning, others have put together various documents over the last number of years, but they were sort of hidden and no one knew where they were and couldn't access them. So we have collated them and put them all here. You can see all these little places you can go. Some updated some updated information on sea level rise, things like that. Very important under the infrastructure is the listing and description of a number of key projects that the city has. You can get a sense of this: the low battery, the medical district pump station upgrade, sort of what you need to know, forest acres. There's just a number of projects here. You can see them listed here. The white is the main, up the top here, the white is the main menu used to navigate the sections. And then within each section, there are a number of subtopics, and you can get to those there. So these sections are infrastructure, land use, governance, resource, and information and outreach. Those are the key components of the sea level rise strategy. So we've reflected all that. But again, this is very rich. The land and water analysis is briefly described here, but there's just a lot of good information that has been collated, a lot of good work that has been done by the city in the last number of years. City Council has invested a lot, and we need to show that to the citizens, and that's what this is for. So I'm going to stop sharing, but I'm going to put a link to this in or I'll share the link. We'll share the link to this document to all of you after this meeting, so you have it, look through it. If you have suggestions or you see a typo that I did not catch or we did not catch, please share that with us. We can correct it on the fly. And I just want to let you know, this was a collaborative effort with most city departments, but we had a wonderful College of Charleston graduate student. You met her. I think she attended a couple of the meetings last summer. She did the heavy work here, putting this together. And when we presented to City Council, I would like her to come help us do that because she did the heavy lift. So we are importing labor wherever we can to help us do this work. So any questions about that?
I just want to commend Dan and all those people. It's an encyclopedic effort, and it's marvelous. And you can tap, you don't have to read the whole thing. I've read most of it, but it took most of a day to do. But you can tap into any area that you're interested in, and it really does explain what all is going on here in a way that's understandable to the layperson by and large. And it's just a great resource to have, and you don't have to go to City Hall, and you don't have to go anywhere. You can sit in your house and get the information you're looking for. So congratulations.
Thank you. And it is meant to be updated on a regular basis. The previous strategies were more or less outdated the day they were printed. You make them a PDF. So, and that's just, that happens. And we didn't want that. So this is online only. We have developed a one-page sort of fold out handout that we can give to people with the QR code on it, and they can scan it with their tablet or their phone and then go to the document that way. So this will be pretty accessible. And again, we can update this on the fly. So if we get more funding for a particular project, or there's an updated particular policy, again, when City Council passes this prohibition on certain types of foundation, the slab on grade, no fill, or restriction of fill ordinance, I will be able to update this website very quickly, and that can be part of our strategy. So, any questions? I'm done then. Thank you. Caitlin and Haygood, it's all yours.
Yeah, no. So, I mean, I think the next agenda item is just basically closing first term remarks. Yeah, no, I just want to say I appreciate all y'all's time and effort and diligence. And, you know, special thank you, of course, to all the committee members. And of course to Dale and Kaylin for all their efforts. I know this isn't the only part of y'all's job and goals and things to get done by any means. So I think the level of effort y'all put onto this and professionalism is worth commending in a major way. So thank y'all very much.
Thank you. This is an important effort to protect the city. So y'all are contributing too. So it's a joint effort. Hopefully we're successful.
Great, thank you. I'll say the same for our council members, Seekings and Waring. Thank you all very much, and say the same remarks to y'all as well. Thank you. And yeah, that goes to all our committee members. I appreciate it and look forward to seeing where this project goes. And yeah, and yeah, I think the other one was a Q&A. If there's any other kind of questions pressing forward, or any other commentary, I'll open it up to the floor.
You have a question for Dale on we talked about the design agreement and that's a little bit lengthy process. When do we think we'll have a design agreement in place?
It's going to take us a while to get draft language on how we do this. Again, we had a promising meeting with the district staff yesterday. If we stay within the boundaries of their template that don't make any, their design agreement template that do not make material changes, the division commander can, so that's Atlanta, that's in Atlanta, the division commander can sign the document or authorize the district commander to sign the document. I have a funny feeling that we're going to we may need to ask for more certainty regarding design control or management. And I'm not sure if that's going to require sort of a standard review by the division commander or review by legal and headquarters at the Army Corps. I think it's important that we as a city are comfortable with what we're putting forth in the design agreement, because design can't start until that. So I don't know. I think it's going to be summer at the earliest. Hope that answers your question. A lengthy answer, but it's important to get this right before we ask council, because they're going to have final say over this, right? So it's before we ask council to review the design agreement, show their level of comfort, and whether or not they're willing to invest in PED.
Thank you.
Yeah, hi, Dale. And I guess a little bit wondering what the role of this committee is with regards to the design agreement. I mean, my input is I agree with you to fight for as much control input as you can get, maybe without having to, you know, hire a whole new staff for that, right? So I understand there's trade-offs. Just and people can comment on that. But last time we were here, you also mentioned some pending legislation that would help bring some things that we want within the scope of what the Army Corps will pay for. Has there been any movement on any of that?
So that's the rulemaking on the P&G and the PR&G. So sorry, this jargon from the Army Corps of Engineers. So the way feasibility studies are done, they follow a 1983 law, the Principles and Guidelines, which really requires the federal government to do projects that have a positive benefit cost ratio. And once they have that, to have the benefit cost ratio that gives you the highest benefits for the lowest cost. That's from 40 years ago. There has been an effort in Congress and elsewhere to change that, update that to reflect there's more that's needed in complex urban environments and in some other areas. That legislation or that activity moved forward in 2007 and 2014 to have a draft rule that would enable this bigger, better process. There was legislation passed that prohibited prohibited the Army Corps from doing anything between 2016 and 2020 on that. The National Academies of Sciences and others have worked on a draft proposed rule with the Assistant Secretary of the Army to do this. We hear that rulemaking, they will do this through a rulemaking process, not a legislative process. That rulemaking, the proposed rule or the draft proposed rule will come out sometime in the next couple of months. And once that occurs, there's a formal regulatory process. You go through the proposed rule. There is 60 or 90-day comment period. All comments submitted have to be reviewed, ingested. There will be a draft final rule that will also have a comment period, and then the rule will be made. And I forget the word, but the rule will go into effect on a certain day after that final draft rule is done. And then if Congress wanted, they could pass legislation to prevent the implementation of the rule. But what we hear is this draft proposed rule that's being formulated has strong bipartisan support. And that's simply because the Army Corps of Engineers is working in a lot of districts, congressional districts and states across the nation. And a lot of congressmen from both parties and senators from both parties see the need to update the P&G to the PR&G. So that's what this is about. So it's not going to be relevant for us, so to speak, in the design phase, but I'm really confident that all the things that we can get, that we need to do in the design phase, we can get with existing authority. And we can also then, if they object, we can reference this proposed rule and say, look, why not? So it's a negotiating position, but I do feel very good about it.
Okay, thanks.
Any other questions or comments from anybody in the anybody on the committee? Well, good. Well, I think Dale, Kalen, anything y'all would like to add or anything along those lines may contrary to the norm, we may have a chance to wrap up a little bit early and get everybody along with their Wednesdays.
No, I would just reminder again, we are seeking a new chairman. So if you have that interest, we can take that to the mayor. Please let us know. And also in one of the ordinance update with the makeup of the committee, We have listed an engineer. We will be changing that to an engineer or architect. So if you have any, councilman or any of the other committee members in mind, somebody, it's a little challenging one because we want folks that obviously wouldn't have a conflict of interest that would potentially ever do any work on this project. So we would love any ideas to help us brainstorm that and take to the mayor and city council for approval. So just some housekeeping efforts through the committee makeup, but that's all from me.
Yeah, what we would
just remember, we've got an engineer councilman who could check off 2 boxes.
That's true. That's true.
That's great, Mike. Thank you. Yeah, just on the conflict of interest, there's a number of really smart engineers we know, but in fact, if and as the project moves forward, they may want to participate in the professional way, and if they were on this committee, they would have an appearance of a conflict. So they may not want to. They may not want to join you all for that reason.
Understood. Well, I've enjoyed the 2-year term. It'll be good to be a I think in the crowd role. I think going forward it'll be nice. So excited about that.
So thank you, Haygood, for your leadership. This is not easy work. I think we've all learned a lot. This is really complex stuff, and you stepping in and trying to wrestle with this group has been admirable, and you've done a great job. So thank you.
Oh, my pleasure. My pleasure.
Agreed.
Well, good. Well, I'll go ahead and adjourn this meeting. Thank y'all very much for your time, and enjoy the rest of your day. And we'll reconnect soon here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank y'all.